form those democracies will take. That question is at least as important for us, if not more so, than it was for Tocqueville. What Tocqueville is sure about, however, is that the fate of America is in some way the fate of Europe, and maybe, for that matter, the fate of the rest of the world. It appears to me, he says, beyond doubt, that sooner or later we shall arrive, like the Americans, at an almost complete equality of conditions. He says in the introduction that we shall arrive, speaking to his French audience, a shocking statement, again, to members of his class and of his family background, that sooner or later we too will arrive at this complete equality. He seems to ask the reader, do you like what you see, what I describe? What form democracy will take elsewhere will be very much dependent upon circumstance and statesmanship. Again, his is an attempt to educate statesmen for the future. Let me say a few words, and I will not finish this today, but we'll take it up, continue this a bit on Wednesday, about what were the characteristics of American democracy? What constitutes, as it were, democracy American style, as Tocqueville understood it? Given that, again, democracy has no single determinate form, but is characterized by a considerable degree of elasticity and openness, what are the features that are constitutive of American democracy? Condensing a vast amount of material especially from volume 1 of Democracy, there are 3 features that I want to emphasize about the unique characteristics of American democracy that lead to, again, making it mild, gentle, or what we might call a liberal democracy. These are local government, civil associations, and what Tocqueville calls the spirit of religion. And I want to talk about each of these 3 in turn. I'll only probably talk about the first one here, local government. One of the parts of Tocqueville's book for which he is most famous. The first and, in many respects, most fundamental feature of American democracy is the importance that Tocqueville attributes to local government and local institutions. The importance of localism, local democracies, and you might say the spirit that emanates from it is the key to the whole. The cradle of democracy is to be found in what Tocqueville calls the commune, or what in our translation is called the township democracy. It is nonetheless in the township, he writes, that the force of free peoples resides. The institutions of a township are to freedom what primary schools are to science. They put it within the reach of the people. Does that sound at all familiar? I mean, I think it should, in some respects. Tocqueville's description of the New England township, put within the reach of all the people, clearly demonstrates the influence on Tocqueville of Rousseau's account of the general will in the social contract, right? It is the people organizing, legislating, and deliberating over their common interests that is the core of liberty. Tocqueville very much views the American experience of local democracy through the lenses shaped or crafted by Rousseau, and this is hardly fortuitous. In a famous letter again to his friend Kergolay, Tocqueville admits that Rousseau was one of 3 writers with whom he spent some time every day. Every day. He read Rousseau every day. The other 2, Montesquieu and Pascal. But it was Rousseau more than any other figure who, again, helped him understand the democratic experience, and particularly this experience of the township. Yet in some ways Tocqueville combines his reading of the township, his Rousseauian reading of the township, with a kind of Aristotelian twist. The township, he writes, he continues in that same passage, is the sole association that is so much in nature, he says, that everywhere men are gathered, a township forms of itself. That term, in nature, it is the sole association, so much in nature, should alert you to a kind of Aristotelianism in what in what Tocqueville is saying. The township is here said to be a product of nature. It eludes, he writes, the effort of man. The township exists by nature, but its existence is far from being guaranteed. It is fragile and it is uncertain. It is continually threatened by invasions, not necessarily by foreign powers, but from larger forms of government, state and federal government. The township is continually threatened by federal and national authority. And Tocqueville adds, with a definite hint of Rousseau, that the more enlightened a people are, the more enlightened they are, the more difficult it is for them to retain the spirit of the township. Think of that. The more enlightened they are, the township relies on a certain kind of spirit of local, sturdy and steady habits, not necessarily enlightened opinion. That spirit of local freedom, again, it goes hand in hand with a kind of rustic, even primitive manners and customs that clearly Rousseau would have admired. And for this reason, he laments that the spirit of the township no longer exists in Europe, where the process of political centralization and the progress of enlightenment have virtually destroyed the conditions for local self-government. I'm going to end on that note, and Wednesday we're going to show a little movie again, a little piece from a movie, about just a very, very short clip which will illustrate the theme of civil associations in democracy, and we'll go on to talk about religion and then some other parts of Rousseau. Well, welcome back. It's nice to see you all here.